Welcome everybody to March's Sydney Microsoft 365 Meetup, proudly sponsored by Telstra Purple and Lab 3. Welcome, Ken. How are you doing this month?
Oh, look, mate, I'm just reeling from the absolute torrent of news coming out of Ignite last week. Lots and lots of new features to look forward to. It's really going to shake up the whole guest ecosystem for Microsoft Teams, given some of the stuff that they're announcing. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to hearing more.
I tell you what, I've been just watching YouTube video upon YouTube video upon YouTube video and the raft of blogs that have come out. It's certainly an exciting time to be in the Microsoft space. And I mean, there's a bucket load of announcements that we're going to talk through today and start to talk through. But in terms of our agenda, it's nothing too dissimilar from the norm. So for the first 10 or so minutes, we'll just give a quick welcome and overview of what has come out from Ignite. I've tried to keep it to a minimum, and what I think are, I guess, my top few features and enhancements. And today's keynote speaker, we have Gavin Hack, who is a domain solution architect in the modern workplace at Microsoft. So very keen to hear his thoughts about bringing the next level to employee experience. So that's really going to start to talk about the Viva announcements and what's happening across the Viva stack. So I'm super excited to hear what Gavin has to say in that space. And without further ado, we'll jump straight into it. So obviously we had Microsoft Ignite, and what a month for updates. Obviously Ignite coming in, which is Microsoft's flagship event. So we, over the past week, I'm sure all the attendees would have attended sessions across a number of the Microsoft product systems. And I would encourage you all to view or watch the keynote with Satya Nadella and Alex Kipman. And they really laid out a nice vision for Microsoft in the next 10 years. His vision is a cloud platform that is decentralized, ubiquitous, intelligent, sensing, and trusted. It's one that actually titillates the senses at all levels and plays between consumers and creators by placing tools in the hands of more people around the world. So I think with that keynote, you'll start to get a feel for what Microsoft's thoughts are for the next 10 years when it comes to cloud computing and where technology is going to be going towards. So I'd definitely encourage you to view that one. As I said before, there are way too many updates to go through. I would encourage you all to go into the different domains of knowledge that you're seeking around Power Platform, around Intune, around modern management, around Microsoft 365, around Teams. It's a very exciting space to be in at the moment. And what you'll start to see is that through these 5 key attributes that Satya laid out in his keynote, is that it's really Microsoft's response to the past year and how that's going to shift and change the world into the future. So if you watch the keynote first, you'll start to understand why some of these updates are coming and why Microsoft are making the investments in those different spaces. So in terms of, I guess, my top takeaways, first one is Teams Connect. And that really helps organizations collaborate seamlessly with customers, partners, and suppliers or other external parties through shared channels. And it's now currently in private preview. Microsoft Teams leverages the deep collaboration capabilities that Teams brings together, such as chat, meetings, apps, collaborations, and real-time document co-authoring, all while maintaining control over how users access data and information. Teams Connect will become generally available in June 2021, and I expect a lot of people will be jumping on board that train for sure.
I think this is interesting, Con, just to interject, because if you ask an organisation that runs Office 365, what do you have most of your guests doing? So why do you have most of your guests? The answer is normally we need them to collaborate with us in Teams. So yeah. A lot of the guest onboarding is done simply for the purposes of getting people into Teams so that they can co-author and collaborate. Now, what this is doing is it's shaking it up because you're now bringing that experience to people who aren't guests. So essentially external users can now participate in channels and look at content in that way. So it'd be interesting to see how that changes the whole messaging around guest access and what that means for organizations that have an investment in that.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's pushing the security boundaries. I mean, do you treat the externals as an internal now, or just a different raft of policies across them? I think it's going to open up a lot of conversations, certainly in that security space and managing information appropriately. So back to the shared channels. Shared channels are awesome. With shared channels, it's possible to create a single channel where you can add members from your own organization or even other organizations. And what's the most revolutionizing part of it is that people from other organizations who you invite into that channel do not have to switch tenants. But repeat, they do not have to switch a tenant. That is just amazing. Think about all the times, us as a consultants, we get invited to project team sites or whatever else, and we have to switch tenants. It's quite a cumbersome and annoying little thing. Now those channels will actually appear within my Teams client, and I can collaborate and connect with my customers quite easily, which is quite cool. I guess it'll make life and collaboration a lot easier. And when you access shared channels directly from your own list of teams, also admins will have access to a bunch of granular controls, allowing them to stay in control of how data transfers between internal and external and those data flows. So expect it to be a bunch of admin controls coming your way. And also, I suspect that the shared channels model will eventually be used a lot more instead of the private channels, just because of the flexibility we're seeing in the early previews that we've been exposed to. So that's definitely an interesting space. Sorry. Next up, the Power Platform. Personally, I've been a massive fan of the Power Platform. And the biggest one for me is now that Microsoft Power Automate Desktop is now available for all Windows 10 users for free. I repeat, for free. Bringing a new robotic process automation to basically everyone with a Windows 10 license. Power Automate Desktop will be included with the Windows Insider preview builds in the coming weeks. Currently, Windows 10 users can also download the tool, which is awesome. Power Automate Desktop for Windows 10 can automate tasks in SharePoint, Excel, Outlook, OneNote, and other apps, including third-party apps. It has a web and desktop recorder and a drag and drop designer with over 370 pre-built actions. This is really building off Microsoft's acquisition of Softmotive for those in the robotics process automation space. Microsoft acquired Softmotive with plans to merge its Win automation platform within Power Automate, just to really build on that story around robotic process automation. So we're seeing lots of cool stuff happening in that space. The second one, which is interesting, which is the Power FX open source programming language, is really expanding. And it can be expressed in text. PowerFX will be available for open source contribution in GitHub and expanded across Teams Dataverse, Power Virtual Agents, and Power Automate. And for anyone with Excel skills to perform more advanced actions within their data. It's one of those. It's a coded solution to a low-code, no-code platform. So it's a.
Is this heralding the return of the macro con? Do you think?
I think it is. I think we see a lot of people out there with Excel skills and Word skills. They're going to get a bit creative again. But I suspect the difference here is that it's now on a central platform with a bit more control. So
IT managers rejoice.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes. Speaking of control, there is a whole raft of new enhanced governance and administration capabilities to enable IT pros to manage the scale and growth of these low-code, no-code solutions within your enterprise. New governance capabilities enable fine-grained data loss prevention, including tenant isolation, the ability to control data access at the connector action level, custom connector enhancements, and data exfiltration controls. Also, new out-of-the-box tenant-wide analytics provide visibility and oversight across all apps and flows to track overall usage, identify top maker trends, and even review sharing details of key Power Platform resources. And if you can see in the screenshot there, we can actually see a Twitter a connector, and we can actually see the methods that we can actually start to block. So we can say, let's block specific actions within the Twitter connector, or even any connector in that. So that's quite a very granular level of control, which is super exciting. And my last, but certainly not least favorite, I think is a nice and hidden gem, Microsoft Whiteboard. There's a raft of new features coming out our way. It's a great tool for collaboration within Microsoft Teams, or when used with Microsoft Whiteboard app on a Surface Hub, for those lucky enough to have the money to have Surface Hubs in your enterprise. There are a few improvements that are rolling out during March. First and the most requested feature is, of course, the ability to use Whiteboard in Teams meetings with external participants. So really honing in that external message there. You can soon share Whiteboard to Teams meetings with everyone, guests, which is already possible, and external users, and even anonymous users are supported. This enables to really get started with the innovation and collaboration during meetings. And oh yes, you might also want to use the existing lock whiteboard feature in case you don't want everyone to edit the whiteboard as you're editing it. I can certainly see that being a fight for control, which is quite cool. Additional content types are coming our ways in terms of shapes and diagrams, as we'll be soon rolling into the Teams web client and the Teams native app delivered through the Microsoft Store for Business. So that's certainly my quick view of the exciting stuff, the features that I was excited about from Ignite. Any other ones you want to add there, Ken, or any quick observations?
A couple new features that interest me. I mean, I like the new webinar feature that's coming to Teams. So right now you've got a standard meeting or a live event. There's going to be a third type that you can pick from, which is a webinar, and that will incorporate into it the ability to collect information before the event through surveys, polls, that kind of thing. But you know, there's going to be tighter integration with Dynamics 365 as well. A lot of the HR functions that Dynamics would typically provide, time off requests, managers to approve leave, a lot of that stuff's going to be brought into the Teams experience and surfaced there as well. So Teams is still a safe bet as far as your forefront collaboration platform. There's a huge investment there on pushing more and more functionality into it over time.
Alrighty, without further ado, we have our keynote session, Employee Experience, the next level, with our buddy Gavin Hack.
So yeah, thanks for having me, and yeah, look forward to getting stuck into a bit of Viva discussion. So it's one of the, I guess, most interesting announcements I think over the last sort of couple of months from us. And when I say us, I guess it's a good segue to a bit of an intro to myself. I'm Gavin Hack. I'm a domain architect sitting in the modern work domain in Microsoft as part of the Microsoft Consulting Services division. I sit in the APAC architect group. I'm effectively responsible for a lot of our complex projects and pre-sales activities across the region, Australia and New Zealand being a focus. So as you can imagine, quite busy. It's a good time to be at Microsoft and working on Microsoft technologies. So yeah, it's been I've only been there for about 7 or 8 months now, but it's been good. Ignite, obviously there's been a ton of announcements coming out of Ignite, as per usual. I'm still catching up on them. We don't get any extra time, I've noticed, at Microsoft to actually catch up on all the announcements from Ignite. So that overview Dave Con was appreciated. Also, I knew about most of them, but not everything. So that's goes to show you just how big the sort of domain is now. Across the modern workplace and across the other technologies we have. So Viva. So I think this aligns quite well with, I guess, Satya's keynote this year. So around, with a lot of the announcements, a lot of the products that we're delivering, a lot of the feature enhancements have been over the last year. They've actually been based upon what we're seeing in terms of how people are working. So everyone's, I assume, has heard our mission, which is to empower every person in every organisation on the planet to achieve more. And I think a lot of the things that you've seen coming out of this over the last sort of 6 to 12 months is a direct result of more working from home, actual scientific analysis behind that, all the information that we're getting from that, and aligned to our mission in terms of enabling people like yourselves to actually do more with what we provide. So what we want to be focusing on now is sort of our your success and people's success, employee success via our productivity tools. So one of the first steps on this journey is we've announced our vision for what we're terming the employee experience, and this is our new branded product suite called Microsoft Viva. So moving on now, so we're going to go just today. Bit of a starting point in terms of why have we taken this route, and what are some of the, I guess, data points that have sort of driven a lot of what you're seeing under that sort of Viva brand now. Obviously a lot has changed over the last year, a lot of in terms of how we're working. It's been sort of transformed, I guess. I mean, I don't know about yourselves, but just me personally, 12 months ago I was spending 4 days in the office at least. I was in the living close to the CBD. It was completely different to what it is now. I've moved out to a place called Ballarat, so pretty rural now. I'm working from home full time, which is quite similar to, I think, a lot of people's sort of experiences over the last sort of 12 months. And I guess what we're seeing in terms of what's going to be shaping the future is, a need for, to support that remote work, a lot more focus on what we're sort of doing frontline workers. During last year and starting well before that, we've actually been really focused on, understanding, what's changing in the workplace, listening to our customers, commissioning research, analysing all the data that we are able to via our cloud services, and, following the science. And some of these data points are here. So some of our key insights around what we've discovered, making sure that we have highly engaged employees, no matter where they're working. So it's difficult when you're juggling a lot of things at home at the moment. So making sure that you've got access to what you need. You don't have to switch context a lot is one of the real key focuses of what we're terming sort of the Viva experience. So you've probably seen a bit of this, so I won't linger too long on it, but we've focused on 6 really key elements of a great employee experience. Sorry, just skipped ahead a bit too far then. Well-being, making sure people are feeling safe at their work, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So the ability to actually understand how your employees or how you are actually tracking on a day-to-day, month-by-month basis. Making sure you feel connected and part of the community, no matter where you're working from. So again, just talking to my personal experience, I found it a bit difficult, starting a new job, not even meeting anyone, face to face, physically face to face, and needing to build those connections that we all need to do to, I guess, be successful at our work, has been, a bit of a challenge. So, we understand that that's something that is something that we need to focus on going forward. The ability to actually focus when you need to, so not be distracted by 100 notifications, as an example. So, really key thing there to prevent that sort of context switching, which is, as we know, is a real disruptor to productivity. Making sure you feel empowered, that you can easily find the tools, the people, the experts, and the resources that you need. So you're empowered to make those decisions, and you understand what's required for not just your success, but your team or your organisation's success as well. Enabling your personal growth, so giving you the ability to find the interest that you're looking to grow. This might be soft skills, might be technical skills, but providing you with pathways to grow within your organisation, and be supported along that journey. And I guess giving people a purpose, so making sure that you understand, I guess, what the organisation's purpose is, what the culture is. These are the sort of 6 key elements we've sort of defined, but we understand that this is pretty difficult to achieve this at the moment, where people are physically apart, feeling quite stressed, they're lacking those connections, and it's harder than ever to create a good personal, a good and great employee experience. So, what is an employee experience platform, or EXP? So we see there's never actually been, a bigger need for technology, data, and insights that are designed to enable a great employee experience, regardless of their location. So we want to make sure that employees feel more connected, more aligned to their company purpose and mission. We understand that, staff want to grow, they want to make a difference. Leaders need a way to develop and manage their employees and understand, how they're tracking, what blockers do they have. And IT needs to be able to quickly enable the modern employee experience without needing to rip and replace, I guess, all their existing legacy systems. So what we see is needed is a new approach, a new category of technology solutions we call the Employee Experience Platform, or EXP. I'm not going to dive too deep into what an EXP is, as I think we're all pretty, we've probably seen that marketing material quite a bit, but, it's bringing together all those sort of pillars that I covered before underneath a common technology platform. So we've pushed out a product called Viva. Okay, so we've got four modules currently that you see here. There may be more modules in the future. I'm sure there will be. So each of these, I guess, the key thing to know about this right now is, this builds on existing capability we have at M365, and they're all going to be integrated directly into Teams. So, you can see here, I guess, in the screenshots and in some of the demos that I'll go through shortly, we've got direct integration in Teams. people can surface all this information in teams and I guess work within that common platform. Now there are some caveats to that based on current roadmap, so which I'll cover as we go through the individual modules. I'm going to dive deeper into each one as we go through. So let's just click on and I guess cover what we sort of see as making Viva unique. So we're providing that organizational layer through an integrated system of employee experiences instead of the fragmented different point solutions. So those different applications that people need to context switch across that exist, I guess, in these categories today. We're putting people at the center, so we're delivering those personalized experiences via some power based, the power that we have based upon the Microsoft Graph, and embedding that in the apps that people are using every day, like Teams and in Office. We're looking to provide powerful insights that are actionable, which are really important that you can actually take action on, both for individuals like yourselves, but also for your leaders and other individual teams within your organisation. And like everything that we do, it's all, we're going to respect your privacy, we're going to respect your security. We'll talk about that a bit more when we come to, for example, the topics module, because it's certainly something I get asked all the time. But nothing's changed in terms of privacy and security are at the centre of everything that we do. So making sure that your personal data can only be viewed by you, and that manager and leader insights are de-identified, right? So that's another question I get asked all the time when it comes to Viva Insights and the collection of components we have underneath that and capabilities we have underneath that. It is de-identified, and we've got differential privacy enabled by default. Data can only be viewed by managers with orgs, in orgs of, where they have 10 or more people, right? So making sure that it's de-identified is key, and just want to sort of reinforce that point. And I guess one of the really exciting things from my perspective, coming from a development background, is all of this is going to be extensible, right? So, some of these stories are still developing, and I will go into a bit more detail than you may have seen to date in terms of what extensibility capabilities we do have. But, we are, certainly focused on making sure that you'll be able to extend, the topics experience as an example. You'll be able to extend the connections experience, to tailor it to your organisation, or if you're an ISP, obviously to tailor it to how you want to be able to leverage these services. We want to make sure you can leverage your existing investments in Microsoft and other technologies. So particularly your existing HR, learning and wellbeing systems, such as Workday and those sort of systems, Salesforce as an example. And that leads nicely into what the ecosystem is going to look like. So, we know that, customers don't want to start from scratch with a completely new system. We know that they don't want to rip out and replace their existing systems if they don't have to. There might be, that's a big piece of work, right? So we want to make sure that, this platform is able to consume and display information underneath those modules, but bringing them into your sort of Workday, into your flow. So, we're taking a platform and ecosystem approach with Viva. These are the partner integrations that have been announced. So I think, there's quite a bit there already. There's going to be a lot more to come. And like I said, the extensibility story is there and it's developing. So there will be a lot more to see in this space, both from smaller partners and also the large sort of tentpole organisations that we know. So let's dive deeper into each of the modules. We'll start with connections. But the first thing I want to sort of cover before we go deeper is sort of address the elephant in the room. So common question I get asked is, isn't Viva just a sort of bit of marketing on top? We've repackaged it and taken a lot of our existing investments, such as SharePoint modern sites, home site capability for connections. We've got My Analytics, Workplace Analytics under Viva Insights, Topics there that was already announced under Project Cortex, and learning. There was not really much for learning, so I haven't had much of a question around that. But those are very, I guess the answer to that is yes. I mean, as I said, this is building along on top of our existing capabilities, but bringing it into a single platform, Teams. And making sure that everything that we are doing here will follow you along as contextually during your workday. So While this is, this is true to start with at the moment, there are some benefits there, right? So when we talk about connections, for example, if you're already licensed for SharePoint, you've got the capability to have to use connections, which is on GA, and a limited capability at the moment. So there are benefits there at the moment, and we're obviously going to take these modules and build on them as we go forward over the next calendar year. So yeah, watch this space. I think you'll start to see, I guess, our vision for that. I guess interoperability between these modules is key as well. So the ability to open up your connections app and have your learning, some of your learning pathways displayed on your dashboard is going to be one of those sort of key sort of, I hate the word, but there are going to be some synergies between these modules that you will see and you will discover as we go through. So let's dive a bit deeper into connections. So 60% of people are saying they feel less connected to their team after shifting to remote work. So we know that a sense of belonging, is important to have at work. So think about those pillars I was talking about. Directly, this is sort of directly related to, the ability to bond with your team and have a sense of purpose. So, we know that people that feel belonging to their team, that they feel happy and they stay at their jobs longer. So, how do we do that in a remote workforce, all right? So, and we know that 60% feel feeling less connected to their team since the shift to remote work. So, with that leads us to a question, right? So, how do we create that connectedness and reproduce, I guess, some of those, cultural osmosis that you can see, you get from being in person and having those four-way conversations. Now, I don't think you can completely replace them, but you can certainly try and mitigate some of that, right? So mitigate some of the I guess lack of purpose or lack of connection that people are feeling with technology. So again, I'm not saying that this is a magic bullet for this, but there's definitely ways that we can start bringing people together, whether that's in your organisation or whether it's in your teams or business units, and also making sure that people feel that sort of personal connection as well. So we've created connections, and when I say created, again, going back to the elephant in the room, we've taken a lot of our existing investments and created some additional key capabilities on top of that. So, today in Microsoft 365, we've got a ton of capabilities for employee communication and engagement. So we've got SharePoint, we've got Yammer, we've got Teams, Stream. Connections is bringing all of that together into a company branded app inside of Teams. So over the last sort of year to last 18 months, we've made a lot of progress sort of starting to integrate some of these different connection and collaboration and communication capabilities together. So, for example, you've probably seen the Yammer Communities app in Teams. Now that's been a great success and really increased engagement with Yammer. We've seen that. So employees can, for example, watch their all hands, that are streamed live on Yammer and engage in real-time Q&A across the conversation. So across the company. So connections is kind of the next step there. So we've been told that our customers really want a pre-configured, ready-to-go experience. Ideally in Teams, Teams has become that sort of, another term I don't really like, but I can't think of a better one right at the moment. That sort of front door to your organisation, right? So connections is going to come with dashboards for actions and reminders. So if we start going into the demo, if you think about what this actually looks like and some of the key things that we're showing here, a lot of this is quite familiar. So this is a modern SharePoint intranet site. This is based a lot of this information is sourced from your designated SharePoint home site. One of the key differences though is that dashboard that you see there. So the ability to integrate that information from Yammer, to bring through that information from your Viva Learning's learning pathway, the ability to show you tasks that are from your consolidated task view across To-Do and Exchange. So really bringing that together in a single portal, single integrated platform is what Connections is there to do. So we're looking at this. It gives everyone the tools that they need to be successful, and there's sort of three, I guess, key sort of areas there that we see that they need to be successful. Your employees, so a personalised feed to enable your employees to explore the news that's important to them and contribute to the conversation from anywhere. The personalised dashboard that serves as the company home for your employees, and it's designed to be that central destination for everyone to discover resources and the complete tasks they need to do their job. And a personalised resources area, which is pretty exciting, that allows them to get to the sites, communities, video playlists and stream, and other content that matters most to them. So again, we've got a lot of this capability already, but it's bringing it all together in a sort of turnkey experience that we haven't had before. And what's really exciting is that if you already have SharePoint, then you've got this, right? So you've got SharePoint online, you've got an E3 or an E5 license, you're good to go. You've got connections ready for you. So there are some caveats there, as we'll cover at the end of this quick demonstration. So what does this look like? We've got a mobile experience as well. Note that only the desktop experience at the moment is generally available. And I guess one thing to note here is that you can see that it's customized for your organization. Right? So what you see is personalized for you based upon your role or location. So as an example, there's a personalized feed of relevant news, announcements and conversations. So, you're always in the know. You can keep up with important announcements from your company and your teams, and join in valuable conversations across Yammer. So, Yammer is a first-class experience in communication, in Viva connections. So the feed uses, basically all our signals across Microsoft Graph to make it personalized and relevant to you. Can target communications via our audience targeting capability. We can make sure that your featured conversations based upon your news experiences come to the top of your feed to make sure you get the right information to the right people no matter where they're working. This is the dashboard view, so it's a single destination for all the helpful company resources and tools you need as an employee, and this is really exciting, I think. So things, think about things such as health checks, so COVID check, for example, time off requests, leave requests, expense balances, all these really, things that you need at your fingertips will be available to you via your dashboard. So a single destination for that. And you can see, you can scroll down there, and there's some of that sort of integration that I was talking about with the rest of the Viva capability. So insights, so our Headspace integration there. So reminding you to take a break with Headspace. LinkedIn Learning, so you've got a learning pathway that you've signed up for. LinkedIn Learning is one example of that. It could be a custom learning path, as we'll cover as well, and some other capabilities obviously as well. So Shifts is integrated as well. There's some a little bit of custom capability here, which I'll talk about towards the end of this demo, which is pretty exciting, such as a stock alert. And you can, I think one of the key things here is that you can tailor this to be specific to the types of users within your organization, right? So the ability, if you're a frontline worker, for example, shifts is probably going to be important to you. So and tasks that are specific to you and your role, it's going to be important to show on this dashboard.
So Gavin, without risking throwing in a buzzword or anything like that, is this the closest thing that Microsoft have gotten to an intranet in a box?
Yes.
Yeah. Because right now,
but yes, yeah, it is. It is taking it to that next level. Like I said, I think we've always had a lot of the components, and I think Ken, you were very much across this space, and the sort of leaps and bounds we've made over the last few years in the modern SharePoint experience, which is powering a lot of this. So I think we've always had, well, at least for the last couple of years, we've had a lot of the pieces there to start bringing together a fully sort of integrated experience that you've got access to when you have a SharePoint online license, and that's what customers have been asking for. So yeah, I think this is the closest we've come to that. It's probably not quite there yet. There will always be things that particular organisations want that we probably won't have out of the box. But that's where partners like yourself come in, and so I think that's something that's it's a good question, and I think it's a really good point. I think it is the closest we've got to that type of solution for sure.
There still needs to be an investment though under the covers. So in order for you to get the most out of this, you have to get your content behind the scenes set in such a way that it can really shine in terms of being surfaced through this kind of experience. Correct.
So this doesn't take away the need to have a good information architecture to understand, the different types of roles, personas within your organisation, to be able to target that content appropriately for them. It's not going to, for example, replace the need for a good intranet manager or a digital workplace manager role within an organisation. That's going to be more important than ever. But I think what you will see is there's going to be, it's going to take away some of those issues we have in terms of which we've been trying to solve, things such as the SharePoint home site, SharePoint homepage, those sort of things. But, giving people just a really, really easy, simple to know, this is where you go for your company communications, and hey, it's tailored for you as well. So just open Teams and go to your Viva Connections app. So I think that's just really easy to explain if I put sort of my adoption change management hat on, not having to explain home sites, the SharePoint homepage, those sort of things. I think will not be missed, and I think just pointing users towards that sort of single app in Teams, I think that's going to be a nice quick win for us in this area. So sorry, just continuing through. So I just want to talk about the extension capabilities in Connections. So this has sort of recently been made publicly available information at Ignite. So I'm glad I can talk to it now. And some of you may have been lucky enough to be invited to some of the developer kitchens, dev kitchens that have been run by the product group. So we've got the ability to create new dashboard cards, right? So that those dashboard, those resources, those cards that you saw, the ones that we talked, we had sort of first party experiences and shifts. We had, Viva insights and learning cards. We had obviously task cards as well. These are all based upon what we call adapted cards. So this is an open format, which allows developers to exchange user interface content across different entry points, outputs. So it's just Teams, it's just SharePoint, and other areas across M365, but also everywhere else on the web as well. So I guess one of the really exciting things is that we've introduced a new SharePoint framework component. Key thing here is it's part of the SharePoint framework, so you do need to have SharePoint framework skills to be able to develop these extensions at this stage. It is not what we would call a low code extension. It's definitely more towards the pro code capabilities. And here's an example of what this sort of looks like when you're building one of these. So we've got this new static card, as you can see there. So it's used that new extension that we have. And this is sort of what it looks like from a configuration standpoint, where you're able to quickly build out these templates, and then so basically the look and feel of these cards, it's going to be consistent across Connections. It's going to be really easy to create the actual cards themselves to display. We've got plenty of samples and templates, as I've shown there. We've even got a real-time development area where you can create adaptive cards based upon templates, save those templates, and copy the JSON code, and then into your development environment. And then all you need to do is hook it up. And I say all you need to do in quotes, but effectively, we've taken care of that. That's sort of taking care of that sort of user interface piece. The key part is obviously how do you get data in there, and what do you do with that data when it's in there? What sort of capabilities do you apply when someone clicks a button? Those sort of things will be up to the individual developers. But I guess the key, I don't want to go too deep into this today, but I guess the key thing is that we do have an extension story there. It is going to be available soon for everyone to start using. And you'll be able to create your own dashboard cards for the Viva Connections module. So I think that's really exciting.
Just a quick question on that extension framework there. Will out of the box come with a bunch of accelerators for things like SAP, ServiceNow, SuccessFactors, or they still need to be custom built?
I don't know the answer to that question. I will take that on advisement.
No dramas, but I certainly think that's an exciting opportunity.
I think that's so you'll see. I think you're going to see a lot of those third parties. They'll have their own. If they don't have them soon, they will have them down the line, because it just makes perfect sense, right? So you saw things like shifts, for example, and there it makes perfect sense for there be Salesforce cards or SAP cards and ServiceNow cards, for example.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's certainly an exciting thing for the partner community to really have those integration conversations with their customers.
Yeah, definitely. So so I thought that's just one really, I think, really interesting and exciting piece of the connection story that probably hasn't been touched on so much is that, you know, we have an extension story there. It is going to be pretty, you know, from a development standpoint, pretty simple to start extending that platform and that capability. There's obviously a lot more information around that, and I do sort of recommend that you start looking at, if you're like invited to some of these development kitchens, or by your partner manager, or you know, by your, you know, if you're an organisation, you know, have a talk to your account team and see if they can, you know, help you out there as well in terms of getting you the right people to talk to, because we have a lot of the information that you need to start building these capabilities. Look, and I think, you know, I've obviously stuffed up the text there, but one thing I did want to highlight here is that it is really better together with Yammer, right? So, you know, it builds on a lot of the conversations that was happening within Yammer communities, combining them with, you know, all your different, you know, company resources, task sites, and news across M365. So, you know, Yammer is the source of community content that's aggregated into Viva Connection, so you know that everyone can stay on top of what's important to them and stay in the flow of your work. So, you know, I think that's pretty much covers, I think, connections. I think, you know, again, Ken, you know, when you were talking about making it, doesn't take away the need to have, you know, have done the groundwork. No, it doesn't, but I guess it does. It does if you've done that groundwork already. You are using SharePoint Online to power your sort of communications and collaboration experiences. Then you're all fairly well positioned already to start using Viva Connections. It's desktop available now, so you know it is ready to use. There is no mobile version yet. That's coming in winter, I think, is what we've publicly committed to in terms of our roadmap. Yeah, so that's, you know, there's a lot of excitement around this one, and I think, you know, because it's one that doesn't require an add-on license, it's a good starting point for your sort of Viva experience. All right. So
it's interesting, just saying, it's interesting that you mentioned Yammer being still very much part of the picture. I think there's been a lot of speculation around the future of Yammer in light of the Viva announcement and the fact that it might be taking a bit of a back seat. So you see,
no, it's a first,
you see it not differentiating teams.
Yeah. So it's first class experience inside Connections. It's not going away.
Okay.
You know, there's you know a lot of investment in Yammer, and there's certainly a lot of focus on Yammer for a holistic Connections experience. Again, around, you know, your communications, your you know, Q&A capability, the ability to have conversations inside of Connections. Yeah. So,
but just to be clear, it doesn't require a healthy Yammer network in order for
doesn't require it. So it doesn't require Yammer. What it does require is a modern SharePoint home site to know what that authoritative content source is for news, etc. And to give you a sort of front door homepage. So you do need to have a home site set. One other question before I actually move on that I often get is around classic and modern sites. So a lot of customers have done a lift and shift move into SharePoint Online. They've got a ton of classic sites. They may have a couple of modern sites for the intranet, but they've got a ton of, you know, classic sites. So and this goes for, you know, Viva Topics and other things that look across SharePoint. You know, this information, you know, your news information, anything that gets indexed across Viva, we can index classic sites, but we do rely on modern sites, particularly for Connections as your sort of home site. So, you know, you do need to have a modern home site for Connections. I just want to quickly, since we're running out of time here and got a little bit more to get through, so quickly move on into Viva Insights. So, you know, I think this is the sort of looking at, you know, how do we address, you know, productivity, well-being, employee health, a really key, I guess, pillar of that employee experience. So, you know, I don't know about all you, but, you know, I think it's quite easy to get to that sort of burnout red line at the moment, right? So I think, you know, when we're working from home, we're constantly, you know, disrupted. And even if we're starting to go back to work now, we've had, you know, a year of disruption, right? So, and coming back to work is not necessarily going to be easy for a lot of people. So, you know, a lot of people have said that their job demands have increased and their well-being has declined. So, you know, we've got, you know, Viva Insights, you know, I think and this is building again, you know, on top of some existing capability we have. So My Analytics for your personalized insights, so things around, you've got meetings outside of, your normal hours. We've noticed you haven't taken a break lately. You've got no focus hours. Here's some time for you to have some focus time within your calendar, which I personally have found really useful in the My Analytics view of this capability. And then of course we've got our sort of next level of insights under the workplace analytics capability, which is gives us our manager and business leader insights, which make it much easier for managers to understand your current team sort of norms and take action to help your team strike a balance between productivity and well-being. So one thing we're really conscious of is the ability to actually take a lot of this capability that we have built on the platform with all of these signals we have, but take them and turn them into actual actionable outcomes. So and address those business challenges that we've identified within the organisation.
Just a question from my point of view. I think one of the more contentious things coming out of this is potentially the ability for one-ups, if you like, to view, slice and dice what is considered personal information about what you're doing. How is that being handled from a data privacy point of view? Yeah,
so it's de-identified. So it's really around how your team as a whole is being organised. Not so much how that person within your team, that still should be a sort of one-on-one connection thing you have with your direct report, but understanding how your team as a whole is functioning, across, so for example, are they at risk of burnout, for example, right? It's we don't need to know, the individual that doesn't have much focus time or any breaks or is working 70-hour weeks or whatever, but we need to understand, I guess, how that's sort of coming in with our team. So it is de-identified. Individual privacy, as I said up front, is extremely important, and nothing we're doing there is is going to change that. So everything is privacy protected. So I didn't want to spend too much time on that one because it's not GA yet, but it is. A lot of the capabilities are already available under the My Analytics and Workplace Analytics umbrella. This is under public preview, so if you are interested in bringing this into your team's environment and seeing some of the additional capabilities there and how it's going to work for you and your organisation, again, speak to your account team. They'll be able to get you access to that preview program. Moving on to Viva Topics. So this is something that's gone GA recently, and certainly out of all the modules, I think is the one that I'm spending most of my time talking about with customers. So it's all about how do we find information that within our organisation, right? So without having to, I guess, pay 10 people to go through all our knowledge and build up a knowledge base, right? So what we're trying to do here is instead of having those 10 or 20 people within your organisation that have to build up a knowledge portal or comb through all the information or bring it all together into a single portal, is to do that for you, right? So, but again, there are ways to do that are good and ways to do that are bad, right? So we believe we've got a really good approach here in terms of how we can go, grab all that information within your organisation and turn it into usable knowledge, right? So what we're trying to do here is to address, a lot of issues within an organisation in terms of how do we know, who's an expert on this particular project, or who's an expert with this particular customer. What does this acronym stand for? Is a common one, right? Since I've joined Microsoft, we've got an acronym checker, right? I've used it probably 200 or 300 times, I think, since I've been here. Since Viva Topics is rolled out internally, I'll be glad to say that not all the time, but most of the time, and this is I think the key thing here, nothing is perfect, right? But most of the time, if I hover over the acronym, it's been highlighted by Viva Topics, and it's given me the details about that acronym, and I haven't needed to interrupt my sort of flow when I'm reading a page in SharePoint, for example, to find out what that information stands for. So we like to say it's kind of like Wikipedia for the enterprise, where the AI does the first draft. So I think in that first draft piece is often skipped over by marketing. No offense, marketing. But often, you know, we do skip over that, right? So while we have this AI capability, you know, this engine behind the scenes that can go through your Microsoft 365 content and build out these what we call topic pages and organize all that knowledge into topics pages for you to consume. It does it in a first draft fashion, right? So it'll take the content that you have, tease out the topics that it believes are there, and, you know, create a first draft for that. But you still need knowledge managers and experts within your organization to review that and make sure that that content is actually correct, right? To help you with that, we provide, you know, we show you the authoritative source, you know, the source that we first found that information, or if it's been updated, you know, the source that we feel is the most relevant for that particular topic. So as you can see by the screenshot on the screen, you know, the project or acronym SOAR, we've set in that sort of from highlight, we say let's come from this document. So you can click into that, make sure that it's actually, as a knowledge manager, make sure that it's actually a relevant topic. So we're able to connect into the M365 services. Excitingly, we're also looking to surface information from other third-party services such as ServiceNow knowledge bases. And this is all using our, you know, existing investments and existing capability in the Microsoft Graph. And again, you know, because I know this is a question that always comes up, we respect your privacy, security, and compliance. Now, because topics is such a hot topic at the moment, I will, at the end of this quick demonstration, for those of you that haven't seen it before, I will take you through to some of the frequently asked questions we do get about topics at the moment. So here we go. A lot of learning's done on the job, and so Viva Topics uses AI to connect you to knowledge and experts in the, you know, in the context of your work. Again, you know, we want to make sure it's in the context of where you're working. So when you come across an unfamiliar acronym, you can click on it. If it's underlined like that, it's indicating that this is a Viva topic item. So this is a topic card. This is really sort of, I guess, taking what we've done with people cards throughout Microsoft 365, expanding it, and adding in, you know, and obviously reusing that sort of UI sort of call out for topics information. So no need to search for that information. It finds you where you are, right? So that's certainly what we are attempting to do here. And you can see here, as I was saying, it tells us, you know, where it's coming from, right? So down the bottom there, in that description, it's telling us that it got this information from this particular document. So the ability to actually trust where this information comes from is really important. So now we might want to know a bit more about this topic. So we can click on View Details. This will take us to the topics page, which has a whole bunch of information about that topic. So we've got resources, we've got the description, we've got questions and answers from Yammer. So that's a really cool capability as well, the ability to connect these topics with questions and answers that have been asked on Yammer. So anything that's been asked in terms of around this topic is here, and you can ask the question directly from the topics page as well. We've also got a related topics functionality down the bottom there. Unfortunately, this demo doesn't go down too far enough, but we have the ability to link topics as well. So, you know, the AI behind this is smart enough to understand if it's a related topic, but also your knowledge managers can connect the dots between topics and allow users to navigate between topics in a graph-like fashion. So you'll have a little bit of a graph, and you can click through into the nodes to click through topics. So we use the AI to build these topic pages automatically, and your experts will take that sort of draft and can make them better by editing them with, you know, a very, I guess, wiki-like simplicity, right? So again, this is all powered by SharePoint behind the scenes in terms of the way that you can edit these topics, and, you know, where they're actually stored. They're stored in SharePoint and surfaced up through Teams in this case. if we click on home, this is a topic center. So this gives you a personalized view of topics throughout your organization. It enables your admins and experts to manage these topics and see information about the topics throughout the organization. So this is very much I guess a V1 at this stage. I think that's the important thing to know. So I think you'll see a lot more content, a lot more capability being built, particularly into the team's view of the topics experience. So we're going to be delivering this knowledge into Outlook, into SharePoint, Teams, and of course into Microsoft Search. So the ability to surface this information no matter where you are. One of the things we're very conscious of is that a lot of users will just go straight to the search box. So the ability to surface these cards and this information where it's a relevant result is still important, right? So although we're trying to deliver this information to you in the flow of your work, we do understand that a lot of people, particularly if they sort of know what they're looking for already, will go in and search and type in something in the search bar. So showing these as the top result is important as well. So that capability will be part of this, part of Viva Topics. So going through this, so it's just a quick demo for those of you that haven't seen it. Now, what's the extensibility story like? So we're using the Microsoft Graph and connector capabilities to surface this information. So there is a number of capabilities that we can surface and make use of the Microsoft Graph. We've got what we call sort of the experiences that are built on top of the graph, and one of these is search. And one of these is now going to be topics. So the ability to use the common connector framework that some of you may be already familiar with search, because some of that's already either GA or in public preview. We're also bringing in that capability for topics. So you can start to see, I guess, if you have got a connector there and you're, for example, using a search connector, sorry, a graph search connector for ServiceNow and showing that as a custom vertical in your Microsoft Search experience, you'll be able to surface, topics will be able to access that information and build topic pages, or importantly, add resources to existing topics from those other line of business systems such as ServiceNow. So I think that's really, really exciting capability, and it's in preview at the moment. It's in private preview, so I think one of the if you're interested in that capability, get in touch with your account team. They'll get you in touch with the private preview form, and you can go and apply to be in that program and start to see some of those capabilities coming down the pipe. Just covering, I guess, what are some of these connectors that we already have look like, and this is the only available Microsoft Search at the moment, but just wanted to give you a bit of a view as to what this looks like and some of the capabilities that may be able to be brought across into topics. So we've got quite a few first-party connectors there. We've also got a preview program where you can create your own custom connectors as well. So that's really, going to be important, the ability for organizations to build custom connectors to their systems and surface information and use your existing knowledge throughout the organization and make use of topics, because we know that information isn't just going to be in M365. So it's important that we've got that story for that, and we do have that story.
Just as a quick aside, we ran an internal POC around topics. I would say it took about 2 or 3 days before the AI started making suggestions, but in our organization, which is obviously a technology partner, it was identifying customers and technology as buzzwords for topics, and it's actually really insightful. So it's probably worth leading in with something like topics when you're doing an information architecture piece to sort of try and elicit those entities that make up your business and the kind of thing that people are talking about or conceptualize. Yeah,
definitely. And thanks. That's a really good segue. So I guess in terms of the preparation, and one of the key things to know is you do need and again, this is not something that's highlighted too much at the moment, but if you've got a small amount of content, topics, the AI engine is not going to be very good for you. Okay, it's not going to have enough connections or enough information to do what it needs to do to build up that set of topics within your organization. So If you've got thousands of documents and thousands of pages, or hundreds of pages, thousands of documents, then you'll start to have a much better experience. So the more information that it has to work with, the better the result is. What we're seeing at the moment. It doesn't mean that topics isn't for you. It just means that the AI capability won't be quite as strong, I think, for you at the moment. Now, we're constantly refining that, and I think, Ken, in terms of that 2 or 3 days, this has been varying across customers. I mean, I think, I've certainly seen results start to come back within 24 hours, but other customers have had a similar experience to you. So, and I know that, performance is certainly in front of the mind for the product group. So, really good point. And I think, if you do have a lot of content, then obviously it's going to take quite a bit of time, I think, for it to sift through it. We do have publicly available, information there under the document link, the link that I've got there from a Microsoft Docs. So on Microsoft Docs, we've got a recent, and it's quite new actually in terms of our public information around topics. And one of the key things there is, what does our AI, I guess, focus on at the moment from in terms of types of topics and types of knowledge within your organization. So at the moment, it's going to focus on projects, it's going to focus on events, organization information, locations, products, creative work, and fields of study. So those are it doesn't mean we won't find other information, but that is the focus for the AI capability at the moment. That will be added to as the capability matures. But I think it's important to know that we do have like a set of knowledge, capabilities that we're looking to deliver at the moment that we're going to use as a foundation to build on. So in terms of preparation, so obviously making sure that you've got content in the M365 or in the in the line of business systems that you currently use for knowledge that can be attached with graph-based content connectors. So of course we need to be in the preview for that to work for you at the moment, but we do have a number of large customers using that capability. Enrich your content and security with SharePoint Syntax. So I'm not going to talk about that too much today. I am running a bit over time, but SharePoint Syntax is a document management, document automation capability that can be used quite well with topics, because it can, it's not going to be right for every scenario, but if you have policy, document, statement of works, as an example, as a consulting organization, that SharePoint Syntax can extract metadata from, associate it with those documents. The more information we have about content in your organization, the more consistent that information is, the better that the AI capability is going to work for topics. So we find that syntax and topics work really well together. In terms of deployment, again, I think I've covered, that AI is going to index that content, build those topics pages. You still need your knowledge manager or knowledge managers to review and approve topics in the topic center. Everything is covered from a security and role-based security perspective. So only your people you're allowed to contribute or edit topics are going to have capability to do that. So there is a bit of governance work that you need to do there. You're able to give your SMEs or experts that capability to curate those pages. And I think one important thing to note, marketing material doesn't really focus on it again, but it's only GA in SharePoint and Microsoft Search at the moment. Teams is all our marketing material, as you see in the deck today. That's coming very soon. It's not there yet. So if you go through and get a trial of topics and wonder why the Viva Topics app's not there, it's because it's not available yet. So it's coming very soon. So yeah, important to know that is the current standpoint. Just some frequently asked questions. So again, available in SharePoint Online, Microsoft Search now, coming to Teams soon. It respects the security in your environment. This is key, right? So it's based upon all the role-based security you've already got. It's going to respect those information barriers you have, for example. One thing that we're still working on bringing in is the proper integration with Microsoft Information Protection, Classification, Sensitivity labels. That's still a bit grey area. I don't have any more information than that at the moment, but yeah, something to keep in mind that is a work in progress. But in terms of security, if you don't have access to a document that we source the topic from, you're not going to see that topic. If you don't have access to a resource that we've associated with that topic, you might have access to the actual topic itself, but what about a document that might be associated with that topic? No, you're not going to see it unless you've got access to it. you've got the ability to, if you don't trust, I guess, that view of the world, then you've also got the ability to exclude, sensitive sites from your topics experience. So you could say to topics, I only want you to index information from these areas, from these SharePoint sites. So you've got the ability to restrict that via administrative configuration and make sure that the AI capabilities don't even look into certain sites. Now, that would be taking away some capability from your users that do have access to that content, but we want to make sure that everyone's got those capabilities that they may need to meet their own requirements. Anyone that views, access, curates topic cards, topic pages, or the topic centers are otherwise benefiting from any topics capability are going to require an add-on license to their E3 or E5 capability. Now, I'm not here to talk about licensing, but just note that there is an add-on requirement for that. People have asked me about the extensibility story. I can tell you that there will be APIs. I do know what they are, but I'm not allowed to share that with you at the moment. So there are going to be a robust set of APIs available to extend and build on top of this service, which I think will be exciting to some of you out there. And as I sort of touched on before, modern and classic sites can still be indexed and added to a knowledge center in terms of the information we get, but topic highlights are only going to appear on your modern SharePoint sites. Okay, so that's something that's good to know. What does the roadmap look like at the moment? Again, this might be slightly out of date after Ignite, but I think it's pretty close still. It's GA at the moment. Sorry, go back here. GA at the moment. Topics are in search. Topics in Yammer and Teams are in preview at the moment for certain customers, and it's in SharePoint as well. There are some additional capabilities we're bringing in soon, so the ability to manage metadata and topic management metadata. So it's around admin metadata and topic center metadata. It's been requested by some clients. And remember how I sort of talked about the different types of topics that the AI is going to index? Well, we're going to bring support for extended topic types coming down the pipe as well. The next sort of step is around that sort of foundational experience. So the APIs that I was talking about via the Microsoft Graph and the external sort of search connectors, graph connectors capability is going to be coming too.
Thank you very much for that, Gavin. I think Viva is going to be the foundation for a lot of conversations for us into the future, and I certainly welcome Microsoft for making the investments into that and putting a focus on employee experience, because I think over the next couple of years that's going to be quite a key focus for a number of organizations, making sure that their people are looked after and the technology can actually inform them and help them through that journey. So well done to Microsoft on that one. Kudos. Yeah, thanks very much for taking the time to present that. It's been very well appreciated by all, I'm sure. From me, thank you very much. Take care.